Shalom and welcome to the Jerusalem Post News Weekend Edition. This past month, Israelis saw their share of war and terror. Last week, a terrorist recklessly drove a vehicle through the Jerusalem light rail station, leaving a trail of death. Just a couple days ago, a young soldier was stabbed at a Tel Aviv train station. This summer, Israelis became used to running to bomb shelters while rockets were fired throughout the country from the conflict in Gaza. With smartphone apps such as Red Alert, Israelis were able to receive rocket warnings through their cell phones. In this new wave of violence, only time will tell what technology can bring to keep Israelis safe. Here is a closer look at technology in times of battle. This past summer, during the IDF's operation in Gaza, many Israelis were forced to run to shelter regularly as rocket sirens sounded throughout the country on a regular basis. Luckily, Israelis have developed innovative ways to use technology during wartime. Smartphone applications have played a large role in this, especially an app called Red Alert, which sounds an alarm when there is a rocket threat. Another application became popular earlier this summer when 3 Israeli teenage boys were kidnapped in the West Bank. The app, Now Force, allows users to send a simple alert signal in case of an emergency. Another app provides convenient maps to nearest bomb shelters. While technology certainly allows information to get to people faster, some fear that may not always be beneficial. There have been incidents recently where messaging apps such as WhatsApp allowed for false or unconfirmed information to travel into the wrong hands. Whether it be the news of a soldier casualty before the family is informed, or information about the location of a rocket landing, the faster technology develops, the faster information can travel, and the less control can be had over censoring this information. In this recent wave of terror attacks, only time will tell what technology will bring to the battlefield. Now we have Jerusalem Post business and technology reporter Niamh Ellis joining us from Tel Aviv. Hi, Niamh. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me.
So, do you think it's bad that people are able to get information so quickly through Facebook and WhatsApp during war?
Well, there are a few sides to that. On the one hand, it's really great that people are able to get relevant information right away. If there's a disaster or an attack or something like that, it's really wonderful that people are able to find out about it through all these different media that they didn't used to be able to. The problem really comes when misinformation comes in, and we saw that happening this summer, that there were viral WhatsApp texts going around that were telling people that all sorts of horrible things had happened, even though they hadn't happened. So people were panicking unnecessarily, and that's where the real danger comes in about being able to differentiate between what's real news and what's just sort of a rumor or even sort of planted disinformation.
Now, could you be a bit more specific about the dangers of this information traveling quickly? What would happen if it fell into the wrong hands, for example?
That's also a problem. It's something else that we saw. Certainly as journalists in Israel, we know that we have military censorship. And what that means is that there are certain things that we're not allowed to report because they have public security implications. For example, when a rocket falls, we're generally asked not to report exactly where it landed because it actually helps the people firing the rocket's aim. So that's the kind of situation where sometimes there's information that you don't want to get out there, and there's actually a sort of a military benefit to secrecy.
Now, do you think in general, smartphones have changed the way people communicate or exchange information during wartime? And specifically, do these apps really work?
You know, it's hard to say. I haven't heard stories of any particular person actually being rescued by that. And again, we're fortunate that we have systems like the Iron Dome in place because, again, during the summer war, we had alerts and the air sirens and then this system that knocked a vast majority of the rockets out of the sky. Now, it's definitely possible that there was someone who didn't hear the siren and got the Red Alert app, but the other thing is that it's not applicable to every situation. So the wave of terror we've been experiencing more recently doesn't have air alarms. The Red Alert app is not going to help anybody if some maniac comes with a car and tries to run them over or stab them in a train station. And, you know, there's always sort of an arms race, a literal arms race with terrorism, because there are technological responses, and then, of course, the terrorists have to find new ways. And we can see that, you know, just in the last decade, we've gone from suicide bombings, then we had the barrier built, and then rockets, and then the Iron Dome, and now, you know, this latest wave of attacks is a way to say, basically, your technology can only go so far.
And finally, Niamh, what do you think lays in the future for battlefield technology?
Well, the thing about that, Lauren, is that we don't know what's coming. You know, we have all of this incredible technology that's being created. We have wearable technology that's being made. We have Google Glass. We have fabric technologies with chips in them. If you'd asked somebody 10 years ago if we would be able to develop a rocket defense system to just shoot rockets that are being fired at us en masse out of the sky, people would have said, you're crazy. And here it is, it exists. That's one of the fun things about covering technology, is that you really don't know where it's going to go. And again, as I sort of mentioned earlier, you know, the whole arms race is a technological one, you know, and sometimes I think what's been interesting, especially with the advent of terrorism, is that sometimes it's the low-tech technology that's actually the most effective. You know, in the Summer War, it was the mortars that were the most effective because there was a technological solution to the rockets. So it's really interesting to see the way that that plays out. And I'm excited to see what kind of solutions and ideas come up as the rest of the technology advances.
Thanks so much, Niamh.
Thanks so much for having me, Lauren.
And that's all for this week's Jerusalem Post News Weekend Edition. Join us next week while we find out what makes Israeli culture so unique. Tune in on Sunday for our daily newscast, and go to jpost.com for all the latest news from Israel, the Middle East, and the Jewish world. Until next week, Shabbat Shalom from the Jerusalem Post studio.